I'm a bit worried about Redfall's non-linear structure. It doesn't quite feel earned, and I'm starting to wonder if Arcane is losing its touch. What brought this opinion on was an interview in which the head of Arcane Studios said that they were done making linear games. At the time, this announcement excited me, as Deathloop was an incredible evolution of Dishonored, able to elevate the formula in a creative new outlet and setting, whilst not losing the gameplay and world building that made Dishonored so wonderful. But my mood was tampered with as Redfall revealed itself more and more. We're less than a week from launch at the time of writing, and I'm concerned about how Redfall hasn't justified its open world to us yet. Let me explain. Dishonored is a phenomenal game because of how open it can be in its linear structure. The amount of ways you have to neutralize your target is not only astounding, but also incredibly satisfying. But all of those options were tied together by the singular goal of eliminating one target. What was impressive was how many roads you could take to get there. When Arcane moved on to Deathloop, it almost immediately explained why it could only work in a non-linear style. You have to solve the puzzle of how to kill the 8 visionaries in one day. It would have been a worthless game if it had been in the same style as Dishonored. Once again, it was tied together with how many routes you could take to kill each individual target, with a multitude of methods to murder each, while also not losing the impressive visual and background storytelling Dishonored was highly praised for. And this is where Redfall seems to be stumbling. It hasn't told us why it has to be an open world. From what I've gathered from the trailers, the ultimate goal of Redfall is to fight the vampire lords and obtain their skull keys, so you can unlock the gates to the vampire gods and kill them. Essentially, it's fighting bosses to kill more challenging bosses, something easily achievable in a linear game. While this is non-linear in the sense that I can pick which bosses I fight first and how I want to liberate the neighbourhoods of Redfall, it's not a game that could only be played in a non-linear way like Deathloop. In fact, this is a case of bad non-linear design, as when I fight the last few early level bosses, my character will be so highly leveled up that they'll be a cakewalk. In my opinion, an open world game has failed when you could rework the campaign into a linear one and not lose its core identity. And the main story of Redfall seems to be about entering these distorted vampire dens to fight the vampire boss. And when you force the player to enter linear dungeons for your campaign missions, wouldn't it have been easier and less work to just make a linear game? Why this concerns me is because Arcane is the undisputed master of the immersive sim, and Redfall looks to simply be an open world game. When combined with the co-op focus of the game, Redfall looks like it has more in common with Borderlands than it does Prey. When Arcane said they would be switching to exclusively non-linear games, I assumed that they would still maintain the spirit of the immersive sim. They were using their non-linearity in a way that benefits the game and makes it unable to be told in a linear format. But Redfall seems to be a betrayal of that. In fact, I'll go so far as to declare that Redfall isn't an immersive sim. I just don't think you can be a game based around co-op and also expect total immersion from your players. To me, Redfall looks like an open world Left 4 Dead clone, and that disheartens me, because I don't know why Arcane is stepping away from its wheelhouse of the best immersive sims in the industry to be making a co-op open world shooter. This is like what Rocksteady has been doing to a lesser extent. They were the undisputed kings of the superhero genre, and then their next game seems to be totally influenced by what's popular, rather than what they're good at. I just don't know why Arcane, who has already carved out their niche, would be trying to become just another open world developer. But I refuse to be pessimistic about the overall quality of Redfall for one particular reason. I've felt like this before. During Deathloop's marketing cycle, although there was an overabundance of trailers, I was unsure of what the game was going to be. Would it be a run-based roguelike? Would the game give me any guidance on how to figure out the puzzle of killing the visionaries? I was extremely concerned as the game grew closer to release, and when it finally came out, I faked an illness to get out of the plans I'd made that night because I was enjoying the game so much. So hopefully, Redfall is just another example of Arcane not clearly communicating their game through marketing, and I'll have nothing to worry about when I get my hands on it. Redfall has me concerned not because of the frame rate or always online mode, but because I fear it's straying too far from what Arcane excels at. While I'm hopeful for Redfall, as I've never played an Arcane game I didn't enjoy, I just pray that it's still filled with the studio's unique DNA.